you guys doing? Welcome back to another episode of Soldier Talk the Podcast. I'm your host, Sergeant McPherson, and on this show we discuss military topics with current and prior service members. Today I have Chief Franco. Chief, kind of introduce yourself to the people.
Hi everyone, I'm CW3 Franco Gomez. I'm the 44 Medical Brigade here stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Yes, sir. So you guys, this video is mainly to inform other Yankees on the proper way to do a CSDP inspection. I brought Chief with me just so anything I don't understand, he can kind of elaborate on what I don't understand. So as all Yankees know, the easiest part of a CSDP inspection is mainly the SOP and the publications. So once you get those things out the way, that's almost quite there after you get those two out of the way. Those the easiest thing to do. So today we just gonna cover the property accountability part with Chief. So property accountability, it says right here, the first question, does the unit have current required property authorization documents, which are the MTOs and CTAs? So that's another easy part of the inspection. So you want to make sure you have all your current MTOs and all your CTAs. The next question is, are on-hand items on order meeting the current authorizations? So if you have any excess or anything, on this question right here, Chief, it says, when on-hand property book items are excess and disposition instructions have not been provided, is turn-in action initiated within 10 days after the effective date of the authorization document change?
Yes, so that is for any excess equipment. So if you have excess equipment in your organizations, let's say for a majority of the units, they have MTO changes either October, because that's the end of the fiscal year. So the end of the fiscal year is September. So the MTO might change in the next following month, which is October. For some units might change at a later time. So it's very important that you know when the MTO is changing in your organizations. And based on that MTO change, you want to predict, okay, kind of scrub your property books to know, okay, what are the changes that occur between previous MTO and the new MTO. Based on that, you determine what are your excess equipment. And then on that excess equipment, you want to get with your maintenance, depending on the equipment, rolling stocks, commo equipment, or any other equipment related, TMDE equipment, or any other equipment that requires a TI. Make sure that is the inspectable, whoever is the inspectable person that can conduct that TI on the equipment. They get, supply centers will get with those personnel, get it done properly. Your 5988 or 24/4 needs to be thoroughly conducted, so the inspector knows how to capture the condition code, the physical condition code of the equipment. And all your paperwork needs to be matched and then brought up to the property book office so they know, hey, you let them know that you guys need a PSD for it. And then what the property book does, the property book officer will initiate the vetting. It's called the vetting open process on DST. And then all of the TIs get uploaded in the system and get it vetted to your next core, and then eventually the item manager and a force com. So it's very important to know what excess you have in your formation, right? Mm-hmm. And then to pay attention on your TIs. Everything has to match on your TIs. Make sure serial numbers are annotated and it says on there. And then if you have all that right, there's no excuse that the PSD is going to get approved. So it should be approved within depending on the vetting level. So if it goes from the unit to PBO, it should be 3 to 5 business days. And then the same for the next level of vetting, which is from your core to your brigade to core, the core to your to force com, and then from force com to ASC. So it should be from 3 to 5 business days, the most.
Okay, so the next question is, are unservable items identified, separated, classified, and are tagged to confirm the disposition? So if anything is, like they were saying, if anything is unserviceable, you want to have it tagged saying what are you going to do with this item? Is it a turn-in, or is it a turn-in?
It's a turn-in or a lateral transfer. Now, depending on the equipment, a lot of the units that based on the MTO changes, like we talked before, they might need another unit within the installation might need the same that excess equipment that once you get it vetted on the system for the PSD, it might be cut a lateral transfer to that unit because that unit might need that piece of equipment. Now, one thing that I want to mention is that it's important the condition code of the equipment. So if it's a serviceable piece of equipment and it's been identified by the technical inspector, then that piece of equipment is Bravo, right? Then that piece of equipment is serviceable, it works, then it should be lateral transferred to the unit that is short that piece of equipment. And let's say if it's not short, then the unit probably get that PSD, probably turn it into MDRS. A lot of the installations now have the MDRS, which is MDRS is a process where you turn in the equipment, lateral transfer to them, and they turn it in for you to depot or DLA. So a lot of times you gotta pay attention on the most important thing is the condition of the equipment, and that will dictate if it's serviceable or unserviceable, or if missing shortages, or if it's basically unserviceable. So, yeah.
Yes, sir. So, and it says, prior to turn-in, does the unit determine and validate component shortages on a shortage list? So, prior to the turn-in, they have to validate the component shortages. So, that means that they need to take that shortage annex with them to turn in?
Yes, so it is very important to know and to read when you receive the PSD, the directive from your S4, or you should be getting it from your S4, the PSDs. They, as a supply sign, when you get your PSD, make sure you read the PSD. A lot of supply signs, they don't know that. It's very important to read the PSD because in paragraph Charlie 1 will say if it's 1020 or if it's as is. So if it's as is, they don't need a bomb. The only thing they require to turn them in is the PSD with the lateral transfer to the MDRS. That's their policy. Now, if it's a 1020 to another unit, then you will need the bomb. You gotta do your inventory of what is the components on the bomb with the PSD and the lateral transfer. And you will do your lateral transfer to the gaining unit. Now, if it's some shortages, you make sure you identify those shortages and then have a dollar amount value of how many will cost to bring that 1020. So, two things that you can do. You can contact the gaining unit and say, hey, we have this piece of equipment, however, it has shortages, and this is the dollar amount figure that is short. Now, if your unit, if the gaining unit is willing to accept that equipment, then you could do what is called a memorandum of agreement between your unit and the gaining unit, saying the following PSD, the following equipment has X, Y, and Z dollar amount short. The losing unit will MIPER or WBS the money through the S8, and that's when the S8, your budget analyst on the unit, and I'm sorry, not the unit, at the brigade level needs to notify, but you gotta proper use your channels. You gotta notify the S4, and the S4 will coordinate with the S8 to let them know, hey, we got this piece of equipment, we got a unit, we got a lateral transfer, they got this equipment, you know, certain things that they're short. The gaining unit is willing to accept it. We just gotta WBS the money to that organization so they can order the shortages. And that's how you can complete that lateral transfer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is property discovered in the unit that is not on accountable records turned into the SSA immediately? So anything that's not on the books, you can just turn it into the SSA, right?
So if it's not on the books, now you gotta make sure that a lot of the units have their own SSAs. So their own you gotta make sure that you link with the SSA at the installations. And then some of them might require, they do what is called a turn-in, a FOI turn-in. What it does is that FOI, instead of adding it to the property book, you turn it into the SSA. It has an FOI found on installation. It doesn't require accountable to be accounted on the books. It's just a form, a 2765, which we call it an FOI or an issue, right? Mm-hmm. Or a turning, which is called an FOI turning to the SSA, and the SSA will accept it, put it on their accountable record, accountable stockage, and they will turn it in like a class 2 or class 9, depending on what the equipment is. Now, a lot of the SSAs don't do that, so you might have to either utilize your DLA to turn it in straight to the DLA. So a lot of the DLAs have their SOPs, so it's important to get their SOPs, and they have it. We need a 1348, and then we sign for the equipment. If it doesn't belong to anybody's property book, now that's another one. If the homework is, if you find a piece of equipment, what you do is in a T code IQ09, you go in there and you can check for the serial number history, the serial number. So if it belongs to somebody's property book, then you gotta reach out to the unit, contact them and tell them, hey, we have found a piece of equipment that belongs to your unit. And you gotta do your diligence and turn it in, reach out to the unit, turn it in. But if it doesn't belong to anybody's property book, then you can do that option. Contact your SSA and tell them, hey, can we conduct a turn-in of this piece of equipment? If they tell you no, then the second option is go through your DLA and you turn it in as is to the DLA.
Okay, so the next question was, does the unit use operational basic load component management module for property order of supplies? So that means they will have to have a basic load memo, right?
A basic load memo, yes. Of having that memo is for your 30-day supply. So let's say if you're going to the field, right? Or if you are already going to DSERF, IRF, or any mission that your units are tasked to go somewhere. As a supply sergeant, it's important to have that stockage of 30-day supply. And that's basically, you are the expert on putting that package, which means you got, what are the things that you gotta, how are you gonna have a company supply for 30 days until you get your account set up? Basically, that's what you gotta do. What are the essentials? Toilet tissue, you're gonna need paper, you're gonna need pens, you're gonna need pencils, you're gonna need trash bags, the essential stuff that you're gonna need to make an office kind of work for 30 days stockage.
Yes, sir. So, and it says, this the one I was kind of confused with. I did the inspection. So it says, is DA Form 2064 the document register for supply actions, or ZProStack activity register being properly prepared and maintained?
Yes, so the 2064 it's called the document register. The document register is basically, before we convert to GCSS Army, and some of the supply sergeants might know it was PIPAs. So we use the 2064 to kind of have a document, like a document register to say, these are the equipment that is on order.
Okay.
And then when you put it on order, you put it on that register and monitor that when arrives, then you gotta issue it out to a sub-hand receipt. So basically, it's your green book. A lot of the supply sergeants might not know, but you're supposed to keep a green book to sign out those supplies to whoever comes to your supply cage. You sign them out for accountability purposes. Now with GCSS Army, is the 2064 is like a comparable to a C prostat. If you pull on G Army a C prostat using your S-logs, it's going to give you the whole list of what is being on order. Now when you get that list, I recommend to save it to your desktop or have a folder and you can run it bi-weekly. You can do it weekly to see what's on that C prostat. And then what you do is you go to the SSA, and then when you go to the SSA, you PGR that item. Let's say I order pens, right? You go to the SSA, it shows on the system that's there at the SSA. You go to the SSA, pick it up, PGR it, post good receipt. Then when you get back to the supply room, you have to consume it. Because it goes through your provisional S-log. But you gotta consume it to that S-log that you ordered to. It's like your green book, but in other words, it's in digits. Digital in GCSS Army. Because you're gonna consume it for that provisional S-log. For that stuff, for that section that you ordered the supplies for. But I would say always annotate it on that green book for backup.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So the next question was, is current supply status posted to DA Form 2064 or the ProStat? So what that mean, like, has it came in, or like, what you mean current supply status?
Yeah, so that means that if it's arrived at the warehouse, it's PGR it. A lot of times we receive it, we PGR it, but we don't consume it. We don't close it out. When we say close it out, it's like we closing it out with the SSA when we pick it up. But when we get to our supply rooms, we don't consume it in the system. Like
Okay.
kind of like issue out to the section that you order for. Or if I want to come to the supply room and I want pens, that's what it means. Like I'm closing it out. I'm issuing to you on G Army. I'm consuming it.
So everything that would say what every supply sergeant is supposed to do after that day is over with, they look over their green book and consume everything that got took out of the supply.
Oh yeah, they can do that as well. So you can issue it out and then take your green book and do your accountability, kind of like your accountability of what you issue out, and go in the system and consume. Let's say on G Army might say I have 10 pens, but I issue 5. So you go on the system and consume 5. That means you should have 5 left in your shelf.
And you have 5 come more through the SSA.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Yes, sir. So the last question of this section is a request for cancellation immediately sent to the SSA when requested items are no longer needed?
So if you don't need the item, let's say you order toilet tissue, toilet paper, or paper towels, or whatever the case might be, right? You order it, and if you don't longer need it, then you have to cancel the order. Now, if the item arrives and you don't want it anymore, you can receive it, PGR it in the system, and issue it back to the SSA. So the SSA will be a free issue. So what they do is they will hold it in the warehouse until a unit pulls a requisition, and they will take it out of the shelf and put it on that band for that unit that ordered it.
Okay.
That's what it means. So you cancel it and you can reissue it back to the SSA.
Okay.
So the SSA can stock it for issue.
Okay, so you guys, this is where we're gonna stop at for right now. So we're gonna continue the proper accountability another time. But for right now, For right now, I'll see you guys at formation. I'll see you guys next time.